All right, welcome back. You know that Detroit drivers pay more than anyone when it comes to car insurance. You may be slightly less aware that Michigan is pretty much the most expensive car insurance state in the country, at least depending on how you might look at the numbers. But in Lansing, they're considering Senate Bill 288, which includes so-called de-insurance. But is this as simple as voting for lower insurance rates? Let's talk about it with Eric Poe, the COO of Cure Auto Insurance, and it's pretty much his bill. On the other side of the issue is David Christensen, who is a personal injury attorney. Thank you both for being here. Let me start with you, Eric. Explain to me why, how things have gotten so out of control. In fact, we've got a graphic that you brought me to show how far and away Michigan is more expensive. Let's take a look, if we can call that up. This is the average cost per PIP, which is a personal injury protection claim. And that's Michigan and Detroit there on the far red end, way out in front of everybody else. How's it gotten to this?
Well, basically, Michigan is one of only 12 states that even have no-fault personal injury protection, which only pays for medical bills if you get injured in a car accident and somebody needs to treat you. When the law was passed in the early 1970s, like some of the other states that had them, Michigan happened to be a state that just said, we're not going to have any cap whatsoever of how much the auto insurer is on the hook for in terms of treatment. And they also said that anybody who treats somebody in an auto accident can charge whatever is their reasonable rate for that. And what's happening is there's abuse in the system, and what's happening is auto insurers cannot find it profitable. They lose $1.28 for every dollar they collect in Michigan for personal injury protection, and it's killing cities as well as the whole state of Michigan. We have 21% of the drivers don't even buy car insurance.
David, it is one of the great frustrations, especially for Detroiters, as you know, that it prices you out. So many people drive without car insurance because they can't afford it.
They do, and it's, you know, this is a significant problem for people in Detroit and for people throughout Michigan. I don't think this bill is any kind of a solution. The types of numbers that we're hearing from Eric and elsewhere have never been substantiated because the insurance industry in Michigan will not open their books. The MCCA, the Catastrophic Claims Association, which holds almost $20 billion of drivers' money, keeps their books sealed to the public.
I remember Mayor Duggan wanted to dig into this as soon as he took office, and he came on this program and he said that the insurance companies had opened their books to him to explain to him why rates were so high. He expected it to be all about safety, car theft, carjackings. Instead, he said it was all about medical claims.
Well, every driver in Michigan has the same insurance, whether they live in Detroit, Alpena, Saginaw, or Grand Rapids. Yeah. Everybody has the same no-fault benefits. What we see in Detroit is a captive pool of insureds. There's a lot of other ways to deal with this problem. That we don't need to reform the benefits that people are paid in Detroit. We can solve this problem virtually right now by ending some of the discrimination that drives the rates up in Detroit.
The red line problem is one that you've heard a lot. Isn't that a better way of addressing this problem than changing, as David said, the benefits portion of it?
Well, I mean, there's the biggest misconception about this whole problem is there's twofold. One of them is, yes, there's economic discrimination in the insurance industry. I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm a proponent of a federal bill that we're trying to sponsor where the largest companies, the Progressives, the Geicos, are using education, occupation, credit scores, things that discriminate against income. That's a separate issue. What we have here is an issue in which Michigan has unlimited and has no reasonable rate structure for what a doctor can charge. An example I'm going to tell you first is that the insurance industry publicly has to file all of their financial statements. To say that they don't open their books is absolutely unfounded. Every year when we file financial statements, we actually have to publicly file them. There's no hidden books about insurance industries. That's how we actually are required to do it.
Let me let David take a whack at that first.
Well, what Eric may not be aware of is actually a case that's worked its way up to the Supreme Court in Michigan, where the industry and the Catastrophic Claims Association has refused to divulge the actuarial tables that they rely upon, which drive the spending and the assessments on drivers.
Actuarial, when you say they open their books, I mean, yes, to a financial bottom line, actuarial tables is probably more proprietary than that. We don't get to look at those, do we?
Right. Well, basically what I'm trying to say is that every single state requires us to report all of our loss costs, which is how much money we collect as an industry in the state and how much we pay out in losses. In the state of Michigan, it is $1.28 for every dollar that every insurance company has an aggregate in the state of Michigan is paying out for PIP. There's no question in terms of the veracity and accuracy of that number. But what I'm saying is people are using this as like catastrophic injuries or what's causing it. We're talking about where right now an orthopedic surgeon in the city of Detroit or anywhere in Michigan, they've found in this independent study done about this particular issue, an MRI to the lower back, Medicare pays $484 for. Reimbursement for workers' compensation, which the same injury, same MRI to that lower back, charges $765. In Michigan, that's $3,278. It's the same MRI. It's not about whether or not it's catastrophic coverage.
I mean, when somebody who's charging somebody sees the word unlimited, they can't help themselves, would be the cynic's view. And in fact, others would say, since you're an attorney, you're also looking at your cut in all of this.
Well, when people say unlimited, there's nothing in the law that says rates are unlimited, what providers can charge. Providers can only charge a reasonable charge. Part of my law practice is going and helping medical providers, including some MRI facilities, collect the bills that insurance don't pay. In fact, many of them wait years to get paid because they've been paid zero. The law says that an insurance company only has to pay a reasonable charge. If they pay $3,200, it's because they have determined that that charge is reasonable. If they contest it, that oftentimes goes to court and is decided in court over what is a reasonable charge. Our system takes care of that. A doctor or a hospital cannot charge 1 penny more than a reasonable charge.
Eric, Brooks Patterson, who just left here, was famously in a pretty bad car wreck. And I think he'll tell you that he underwent maybe a hospital bed conversion on all this, but he sees what things are going to cost the rest of his life, and his driver even more so. The expenses that are there that if you start capping it, you really do end up changing people's long-term outlook, their lives. And Brooks says he's come to understand that we have the best system. It does cost more, but it's the best system. How would you say?
Well,
how would you answer that?
In two ways. Number one, the ACA requires now everybody to have health insurance. First off, there are 38 states that don't even have no-fault personal injury protection,
right.
Which means providers treat injured parties and they don't get paid by their auto insurer. So what happens is they litigate to the person who caused the accident. So we're only talking about 12 states. What happens in the other 38 states would be what would happen after your cap is exhausted. That's number one. Number two, when we're talking about what reasonable rate is, that is the problem. There is no such thing as reasonable. I just gave you an MRI cost that's 4.5 times of what workers' compensation is paying for it.
Eric, you get the last 20 seconds.
The charges that are charged in Michigan are determined by the insurance companies themselves as to whether they're reasonable or not. And that's been working for 41 years in this state. People here in Michigan love their no-fault system.
David Christensen, Eric Poe, thank you both very much. I really appreciate the conversation. Hope that may have cleared it up for you. Did it? We'll see. I'm sure there's more on this debate ahead. Up next is Meet the Press right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. Have a great week. We'll see you next week right back here for Flashpoint.